As part of the holiday free safe zone with Share, MG and I have put together a series of videos that are full of things that we can do and think about during the winter season, especially in December when there's a lot of holidays going around. One of the things that we can do in December is get our pets ready, the animals in our life ready to deal with the colder weather. Last week, or 2 weeks ago now, I gave a brief talk about how to get things ready for cats. Today I'm going to talk about dogs. Now, dogs are a little different because there aren't whole feral colonies of dogs, and where there are feral dogs, they're packs of wild dogs and they're dangerous. So this isn't this is different than with the cats, where you're creating shelters on your porch for them. With dogs, these are household companions, and we want to make sure they're cared for. But dogs, unlike cats, have to go outside to relieve themselves. Plus, many of us have dogs or want to have the option to let our dogs be outside without our continuous supervision. So how do you manage that? So let's think about what we can do to make conditions best for our dogs. And this applies no matter what breed of dog you have, but you do have to keep this in your head, because some dogs are adapted for the cold weather and some dogs are not. For example, I have 2 huskies. And interestingly, a husky is a breed that is bred specifically to deal with the cold weather. And my huskies and their families, because I know my huskies' parents and their grandparents, and yeah, these are outside dogs. And they will sleep in the snow. And that's okay, because that's what they want to do. But there are other breeds that really need to not be outside, especially the little toy breeds. These are not outdoor dogs. Short-haired dogs, the beautiful, beautiful shop dog named Georgia, the place where I get my car fixed, she's not a dog that needs to be outside and left outside. And even with my huskies, I make sure that they have options besides just laying out in the snow. So what can you do? Well, there is the mantra that you see at places where they're like, well, if you're cold, they're cold, bring them in. And again, that's very breed specific, but it's a decent rule of thumb that if you're cold, then you need to consider whether or not they're comfortable. So what do? The thing that you want to do with your dogs is, ideally, most dogs do best if they get to be inside and you take them out and you walk them. They do their business and then you bring them back inside and they're comfortable. That is the ideal. If your dogs need to be outside for extended periods of time, firstly, you want to make sure you have a fenced yard or some means to keep them from getting away. Some breeds are more prone to run than others. My huskies, yeah, good luck. If they didn't have a fenced yard with a 7-foot tall fence, they'd be gone. So, yeah, you need to make sure they can't get away. And in that space where they're going to be, you need to make sure they have shelter from the wind, from whatever precipitation there is. So just like with cats, it needs to be warm and dry. The Igloo style of doghouse is super common. I actually have 2 of them for my guys. That's great, but they need to be insulated. They're not very well insulated at all. And just like with cats, the best thing you can use to insulate a doghouse is straw. They will go in there, they'll pack it down. It's great. But you need to stuff that thing full of straw so they can go in there. The downside to the igloos, aside from being super thin, so not very well insulated, they also have this massive door. So if you can manage it, even if you made like flaps with duct tape, to be able to cut the wind out from blowing in there is an ideal thing. So straw, shelter from the wind, try to shut the door somehow. You want to make sure, just like with cats, you want to make sure that they have access to water and liquid water. This is important. If it's freezing outside, your water dish is also going to freeze. Now there's lots of options for dogs. They have heated water dishes so that they'll stay liquid. Or you can replenish their water regularly. Or you can do as I do, which is something if it's doable, then you should do this also, is basically have a dog door so the dogs can let themselves in and out if they want to. And then you don't have to worry about the water freezing because you have the water inside where it's always warm enough. That's not always an option. So, during the winter, the things you need to think about for your dog. You need to make sure it has adequate shelter that's insulated with straw. And if you can swing it, having a flap over the door so they aren't getting blasted with wind is ideal. And the other thing you need is to make sure they have access to liquid water whenever they want it. Dogs do tend to do better if they get to be inside with their people. Cats, especially when we're thinking about feral cats, they don't really care for people. They don't really benefit from being around people generally. Although they do, in their own special kitty way, tell you that they appreciate that you give them shelter. Dogs really need their human companionship. So it is important that even if you have a great dog house and a great fenced yard, that you let your dogs be inside once in a while so that they can socialize with you and be a part of the family as they want to be. Take care of your animals. Give your dogs lots of hugs. I frequently give mine hugs. Even though they say that you shouldn't hug a dog. And some dogs aren't too keen on being hugged. But I have hugging dogs. They like being hugged. So if they'll tolerate being hugged, then give them a hug. And if they don't tolerate it, that's okay too. Just give them a nice pat. Tell them they're good dogs. And make sure you spend time with them this winter while it's cold. It'll help them feel good about themselves, and it will help you feel better as well. Because when it's dark and cold, there's nothing quite like the companionship of a dog. It's true.